part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey.
What's up?
We're back. It's another week, another episode. A very abrupt stop to the theme song on the way in.
That's okay. You were talking over it.
This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason.
I'm Gary.
And as always, we are brought to you by the Press
Play
Podcast
Network. I don't know that I like that.
Well, the point is, we got to the point right away.
The question is this. In post-production, can you pan that so it goes speaker to speaker, straight stereo?
You just made that sound way more legit than we are.
I wanted to. That was the goal.
Good job.
By post-production, we mean export, upload.
Nah, this is going right on to the podcast sites. We're here to talk about sports cards, but you know what I just realized? We're like 3 seasons and 20 episodes in. We probably need a new theme song.
No. Let's take a vote. Listeners, do you want a new theme song next season, or do you want to stick with what we have?
How about next week? I'm just
burn
out.
We're going to stick with what we have for the rest of this season until the holidays, and then we take our hiatus, and then when we come back, we will see what the people want.
What the glad tidings bring is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, what the people want.
Well, I took the vote, and we're doing a live poll, and it turns out you're wrong.
I don't think that's the case. Why? Here's the real question. Why are you wrapped up in what appears to be the cheapest throw blanket in the history of the world?
One, my wife bought these
for 75 cents
for projects for her coworkers to go to a nonprofit. And apparently, they're just laying in blankets in the basement. I think they made a bunch of blankets. These were left over.
It looks like felt.
It's just it's a new material they call fleece.
It doesn't look like fleece.
It is.
Okay, it looks like if you pull it
from like Joann Fabrics. So this is like the. You got something to say about Joann Fabrics? Because there are a lot of ladies in patent leather shoes that will beat you the hell up over that.
I will take them all on. I feel pretty good about.
I'll tell you what, my grandma at Joann Fabrics was an unstoppable force.
Okay,
she could walk through that store at 5 miles an hour. I swear by it.
That's moving.
Yeah, she was hauling.
That's moving.
Hauling.
Especially for an old lady. Was she on a Rascal?
My grandma never had a Rascal. My grandma was strong as hell.
Okay.
She was.
I believe you.
Name like LaDonna.
Gotta be tough.
With a name like Smuckers. All right, anyway. Let's talk sports cards. We're jumping in. I do think we need a new, theme song, but that's just my opinion on it.
You're allowed to be wrong.
All right. So we had a good show this last weekend. My show was good. Yours was better. So we were set up at South High. A couple of listeners stopped by and said, hey, once again, thank you so much for doing that. We'd love to hear it. I especially love it when you buy a big stack of cards and then tell me that you listen.
Absolutely.
But props to Gary because he had a monster week.
It was solid.
It wasn't solid. It was a record-setting week for you to show. So a lot of people have listened to the show for maybe even a couple years and not realized that while you've been in the hobby for a very long time, setting up at shows is pretty new for you. So do you mind giving like a little bit of background, like how long you've been doing shows on a consistent basis and how long it took to scale to where you are and then what happened on Saturday? Because I think it'd be really encouraging for people.
Yeah, so like Jason said, I've been collecting for 40 years. Been selling stuff for quite a while, but not actively setting up at shows on a regular basis. So probably 18 months or so that I've been like really hardcore, like 3-4 shows a month.
Hardcore.
Not, it used to be 2-3 times a year I'd do something or but now.
But not hardcore.
No, not hardcore. Now it's pretty regular, and my inventory turns over pretty quickly most of the time.
I'll give everybody a recap of, it'll take a minute, but kind of break down X amount of a percentage of cards that are in this value range, a percentage in this, and then what sports you focus on. Which if you've been listening for a few weeks, you've heard this, but I think it helps.
Baseball, football. I have very little of anything else.
Hall of Fame basketball.
Yeah, but it's like
Larry Bird, John Wooden, that kind of stuff.
Percentage-wise, basketball stuff on my table.
Less than 5%.
Less than 2%. Probably.
Oh.
Yeah, it's less than 2%. I'd say I'm 60 to 70% baseball, 20 to 25% football, and then the rest is just a smattering. I try to keep a little bit of hockey, a little bit of soccer, stuff that randomly get people asked for. And when I first started really going hard in shows, my inventory was my collection. And it didn't take very long for that to not be the case. I started reinvesting my profits and buying stuff and building up my inventory. So from a breakdown, my table at any given point is going to have 700 to 800 cards in the dollar box that are all top loaded. It's going to have 700 to 800 cards in the $2 box that are all top loaded. It's going to have 700 to 800 cards in my priced as mark box that are going to range anywhere from $3 to $100. My showcase is going to be cards that are anywhere from $100 to $1,000. I got a couple of showcases, and then I usually have a random slab box that's slabs from $5 to $100. That's a breakdown of what my table looks like, with the occasional little bit of older wax here or there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what my table tends to look like. My $1 and $2 boxes get hit pretty hard on a regular basis. My prices mark box will get hit really hard occasionally. Most of the time I'm moving 50 to 80 cards a show out of that box, and 100 to 150 cards out of my $1 box, and a couple hundred cards out of my $2 box.
Do you mind, let's look at 18 months, let's say first 6 months, second 6 months, and then this most recent 6 months. If you had to average out for shows, because I think a lot of people don't realize there are shows where you murder it, and then there are shows where you have the exact same quality of inventory where it doesn't happen.
Yep.
But if you had to average out the first 6 months, probably here's what I was doing per show, the second 6, and then most recently, and then kind of lead into what's happening. I know it's going to be random, but
it really isn't. That's the thing. Like, I would say that it's not that different from the get, and part of that's just because I've been selling for a while, just not at shows.
That's fair.
I average, I'd say not counting this last weekend because that skews everything, but I probably average $1,000 a show in total revenue, which means profit-wise at my margins, depending on what percentage I sold was from the dollar box versus the prices mark stuff, I'm probably averaging a 50% margin.
So I'm going to pause you there, because I think one thing important for listeners to hear is that number for somebody that's been a collector for a long time that knows how to sell and set up. When you go to YouTube, you're going to see collectors and dealers that have not been collecting cards for 40 years, that have heard that this is the new sneaker game, that came in with $50K and bought 10 big cards and are moving a lot of revenue, or moving a lot of gross sales
at 10 to 15%.
Yeah. So you see a lot of these cards where it's like sold for $5,000. They bought it for 48. There's nothing wrong with making $200 on a card, but over the long haul, it's important to take a look at what you're making on that.
Yeah, everybody approaches this thing different. I've got friends that are dealers whose entire table is just 2 showcases that has $50,000 worth of inventory in it. And for them, if they sell 1 or 2 cards at a show, that's been a good show for them, because their cheapest card in their case is $800. That's not my approach. I'm a volume guy, and I want my margins. I'd rather sell $250 or $300 and $2 cards that I have 60-65% margins in, because I'm buying them in huge lots. Like, I just bought I'm a big Adley Rutschman guy. Anybody who talks to me at shows or even hears us talk on the podcast, I'm a big believer in Adley Rutschman. I think he's going to get MVP votes for the next 10 to 15 years. And then I think he ends up having a Hall of Fame career. I bought a huge lot of Adley Rutschman Topps Chrome rookie cards. It was like 49 base cards, base Chrome cards, 12 or 15 that were either refractors or prism refractors or X-fractors, and then like 40 or 50 different inserts, future stars, Titans, all that stuff. And it was like 159 cards is what it ended up being. I paid $110 shipped for it. Those cards sell for $3 to $5 a piece. So my margins on that are massive. I would much rather do that than what you said, than buy a $5,000 card for $4,500. I have much lower risk.
Well, and one thing I would say too, a caveat is, if you were like traveling you had 20 connections that were high-end dealers, buyers. That's a different conversation.
Oh, yeah, there's guys. If you're active in the hobby and you're on Facebook, some of the bigger groups, I've been lucky enough over the years to have gotten to know a lot of the guys that run some of these big groups.
Yeah.
Like guys like Ryan Durkee and Zach Terry and guys like that. If you're on Facebook and active in car communities, you know who those guys are. They go to the Dallas show. They're flying all over the country and taking 2 lock boxes with them everywhere they go. They've got. I mean, Zach has. His inventory is probably $2 million worth of high-end cards.
Right.
That's not the pool that I swim in.
Yeah. Or live in.
Yeah, at all. Like, and to be fair, that's not the pool that Zach lived in until 3 years ago. And really smart guy who hit a couple of really big cards just as things were starting to pump up.
Yeah.
Was able to flip them for big money and then just has continued to roll it. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So for me, I play in that. The most expensive card on my table is probably no more than $1,200–$1,300.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the biggest card I'll sell at a show is $400 or $500.
Most of the time, yeah. I've seen you sell some over $1,000 and all that, but that's a sweet spot.
Yeah, like, that's my sweet spot. So
tell them what happened this week.
It was really cool. I've not ever had this big of a scenario like this. I've had people come and ask me what I would sell my whole table for. I've come close a couple times, couldn't get there. Had a guy come up and was talking to me and was looking through my stuff, and then he came back again, and he was like, what do you want for your whole table? He was the second guy that had asked me that day. And I gave him the same number I gave the first guy, $18,000. That was the number. There's probably 23 sticker on my table. And he really thought about it, and he ended up going, well, what if we ignore the showcases and the $1 and $2 boxes? What do you just want for your prices mark box, this box here, and
it's like a random slab box, right?
Yeah, I had a 2-row boxes, all baseball autographs. My prices mark box was a 3-row box and then a random slab box, and I was like $6,000. And he kind of thought about it, and I think he was waiting to see if I was going to go any lower. I wasn't. That was the number. It's probably $7,800 to $8,000 in sticker there. And finally, he goes, "Okay, I'll do 6." And he pulls out
bands,
3 straps of $2,000 straps of $100 bills and hands them to me and walks away with half my table.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was awesome. And then
hold on, let me jump in here.
Yeah.
Because I'm, we're tables right next to each other, right? I'm watching this happen and I'm super pumped. So here's what I know. On the inside, Gary's like, this is going to be freaking awesome if this happens.
Yeah.
But he's also like, I'm not going to show it because he's a professional salesman. So I'm not going to show any emotion. I'm going to act like this is a $10 transaction.
Yeah.
Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then it sells, and I'm like, yes. The only thing I saw was the fear in his eyes of like, I have so many shows coming up.
Yes.
What do I do?
Yeah, like my like meat and potatoes inventory is now gone. Yeah. And it's inventory that I have built up over time. And in any given week, I probably buy 20 to 50 cards. Well, now I'm in a position where in a perfect world, I needed to replace about 1,000 cards that I can sell for anywhere from $3 to $50 in 8 days. And the panic hit almost immediately.
You mean not almost?
Once the guy walked away, I instantly, Jason looks at me and he goes, "That was awesome." And I went, "What am I going to do?" I've got the cash, but now I got to replenish this inventory. And the one thing that I have come to realize in the last week since that happened is I will be able to replenish that inventory, but there is potato chance it was happening quickly.
Well, and here's the thing to think about. I think it brings up a good point for people that are selling, collecting, whatever. Like, if you have a large sale like that, that's a large volume sale of your collection, you really need to think about how long it's going to take to replenish that, how long it's going to take to get right. Like, if you have another, what do you have, like, in the next 2 months, another 6 shows? Is that reasonable?
6 to 8.
Yeah. So, like, you're going to have that back. A lot of people are going to say, oh, $6,000, I'm going to do this with it and that with it. Like, put a chunk and a sizable one away from inventory if you actually want to scale. What's cool for me is, and the most encouraging thing I heard last week was when you were spending a little time talking with me about my inventory, and you're like, you're starting to creep up on your inventory
Yeah.
where the average card value is going up.
Yeah.
And that was encouraging to me because I never thought like, so you're saying about a year ago, I kind of have a similar table, maybe not quite as high in cards, but
Right.
pretty close to what you were putting out on your tables.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you can scale it and build it, and it will happen where somebody comes, but now what are we going to do? So it was awesome to see you have like a record day, and that wasn't where it ended.
It's really, and what's really cool is when you have that situation occur, it's really important that you don't cut your own throat. Leslie just brought us pizza,
Thanks, Leslie.
which I'm pretty excited about. She kissed Jason,
Yeah.
and now my wife's not here, so I'm just going to eat pizza.
Do we pause it and eat pizza right now?
Oh, in a minute. Let me finish this. and
Oh,
then
I'm
we'll-
hungry and fat.
There was another guy that sold his whole table at the show. He is not only going to be in panic mode, but he is going to be, it's impossible for him to replace his inventory for what he sold his table for. He probably sold 12 grand worth of stuff for $4 grand.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Well, what we're not used to is somebody showing up with stacks of cash like that and offering to buy the table. You don't, like, for me, I've never thought of it. I've had people ask for dollar boxes, 50 cent, $2 boxes, like, hundreds of cards, but I hadn't even taken the time to think through what I would ask for that. How many cards are in these boxes?
Yeah.
How much is there?
Yep.
It's definitely it takes some time, but probably about an hour to two, unless you have a ton of low end stuff. You probably get a pretty good idea of what's in your
Yeah.
collection. So definitely worth considering. Like, let's be optimistic here. What could happen on a random? And here's the funny thing. We're going to talk about it in a minute. There was this massively advertised, actually no,
Ugh.
massive facility advertised show that was supposed to be huge in our same town. People were leaving that show and coming down to our little podunk show at the Legion
30 table show
with
at the Legion.
stacks of cash,
Yeah.
buying tables out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to have an idea of what you have at your table if somebody makes that offer.
Yeah, it's really important.
All right, so let's talk about this big show that happened last week in Columbus.
First of all,
When it was first advertised,
air quotes around
Yeah.
big.
when it was first advertised, it was somebody rented out the convention center, which you have an inside plug there with your wife
Yeah.
working there and being in management role in that. It's a very expensive building to rent.
Correct.
At first, there was all these claims about what was going to happen at the show, who was going to be there. It was like, oh, dang.
250 to 300
Yeah.
dealers. It was going to be autograph signers. It was going to be a huge thing.
And you and I had flirted with the idea of doing this at the same facility until we looked at the numbers. And sometimes you just look at the numbers and realize it doesn't make sense
At all.
for us or for the people that will
Facility.
be attending the
Yeah.
show, facility, all that. So leading up to the show, through social media, there's several different groups of people that like sell at shows. There's Ohio Card Show information, what's coming up. And the promotions seem to shift and kind of go quiet. And we're thinking, what's going on? The big red flag right out of the gate was a $350 table fee.
With a minimum of 2 or 3 tables.
If you want electricity at the table,
200 more.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, there must be some big players coming into town that are spending that kind of money because local small shows, I'm not spending $700.
30 to 50 bucks for a table.
Yeah, 30 to 50 bucks. Like, if somebody asks for more than $50, they better have a guarantee of how many people are going to be
Yeah,
there.
Damn right.
Yeah. So you and I were a little bit skeptical. I don't know exactly what was happening, but it was sure weird on the promotion and how it just kept going more and more quiet.
Well, and then even the week before the show, the people promoting it were still saying 250 tables. Blah. So there was a 3-day show. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday night was the VIP night. You had to pay extra to get into VIP night. And the whole purpose of that was that you would have first shot at all the different dealers' inventory. SGC was set up so you would have first shot to submit to SGC ahead of everybody else. There were swag bags, all this type of stuff that they were talking about. Well, Jason and I go, caveat, we didn't pay a dime. We got tickets. We got weekend passes.
Deal with it, people.
I would not have paid to go. So we get there on Friday night. And we walk in, and the first thing we see is they're not handing swag bags to anybody. And I was like, oh, where are the swag bags? And I goes, oh, they're there on the floor. We pick them up.
It was a little bit bigger than a pizza box.
There were 10 top loaders in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, a pack.
Of 10
top
top
loaders.
loaders. That's it. There was nothing else in this bag.
Which, hey, useful.
Yes.
But I have been to things that I did not pay for entry
And got better swag bags than that.
and gotten at least a free Frosty at Wendy's.
Right. So then we walk into the hall and we look around, and the room is gargantuan. It's ballroom C at the convention center. It's a third full, and
Yep.
the tables are 40 feet apart.
Yeah.
There's 40 dealers there, maybe.
Pipe and drape everywhere, seating. So here's how I know that they were screwed. I used to work at a non-denominational church, and churches love to make rooms feel fuller than they are. Fun fact. So if you've ever been to a church that meets in like a strip mall or like a warehouse building or whatever, and you see like the pipe and drape, like basically the PVC pipes and then the cloth hanging down, they always try to make the room feel full. So if that means they have to close off 50% of the room for that, whatever, or lay out chairs in a different format so it looks like all this stuff's happening. This was the equivalent of a pastor that had their worst attendance on an Easter Sunday being like, hey, it was a record day for us.
Yeah.
That's how they set up the room.
Yeah. So
Like they had a breaker's corner that was like 500 chairs.
yeah,
in
there
it.
was nobody in it.
Maybe probably like 100 chairs, but it was like
Nobody
20
there.
tables. Nobody's there.
Yeah.
It didn't feel open.
No. So we get there. There's only maybe 40 dealers, 40 dealer booths, and probably only 30 of them are set up on Friday. Like, they weren't even all set up. SGC, their booth was up, but there was nobody there. You couldn't submit cards if you wanted to.
Yeah.
We're walking around, and I see panic in these dealers' eyes, because most of these dealers are in this show for anywhere from $900 to $1,500 bucks. And there's panic in their eyes. One guy, to the point where I made one guy had some inventory set up I bought from him. Really nice guy. I have no concept of how this human thought that they had the appropriate level of inventory for this type of show. A standard rule of thumb is you want a minimum of 20 times what your table fee cost you in inventory. So this guy needed $14,000, $15,000 worth of inventory. He probably had $1,200
Oh, no.
of inventory there. He had 2 or 3 cards I kind of wanted. I made him an offer. He was like, it's the first night of the show. No big deal. I'll be around for a couple hours. I may swing back by. If you change your mind, no worries.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I do business. About 2 hours later, I see him frantically walking around the hall looking for me.
Yeah.
And it was only $100 deal.
Yeah.
It was not a big money deal. And he was frantic, like, I need this $100 more than I need these 3 pieces of cardboard. It was sad. And then Saturday, so that night, what was crazy, the VIP night, what do you think? There were maybe 40 people walking around attending?
I mean, it's possible there were a few more just because of how big the room is, but it sure didn't look like it.
Yeah. Saturday, we were set up at a different show, the one we already talked about. And
I had a great day too. I didn't have a record day, but I had
good day.
solid traffic.
Yep.
Consistently people pulling through. They were seeing the value. When I see people are like, oh, that's a good deal, I love that. That makes me feel good.
And there were more people by probably
yes.
3 times
Yes.
at that little show than there were Friday night at
No,
the other show.
In defense of the show, the only thing I will say is, for the most part, the people set up there had some really cool stuff to see.
They did. There was really nice stuff. If you
wanted to look at cool
high-end
cards,
stuff.
Yeah. There was also, for the most part, I found a few gems that were like right up my alley.
Yeah.
So found a really cool Rodman insert, PSA 9. What was it, like frequent flyer or something like that? It looks like those of you that follow like the hoops and the skybox inserts will know about that. A ton of 70s vintage Dolphin stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a decent amount there. I also picked up, probably a stack of cards that I paid $40 for that I was able to sell really quickly the next day at the show. I already had some buyers in mind for like $150.
Yeah.
But if you liked seeing really cool high-end cards, I saw stuff there I haven't seen
Before,
locally.
Yep.
At all.
There was stuff like that. So then we didn't go Saturday, but I talked to some of the guys locally who did set up there because I went back on Sunday. And it sounded like Saturday there were maybe 250 people that showed up as attendees. Sunday, I go back, and it was really interesting to see they were still charging people the same money to get in, $15 a head on Saturday and Sunday. But over half of the dealers were gone on Sunday. They didn't even show up Sunday. They loaded up and left Saturday, and they were still charging people the same amount of money to get in, which I thought was kind of shitty. But that is what it is. What was really weird, though, is how many people that were attendees to the show just posted up at empty tables and set their shit out and acted like they were dealers that were there for the show. One of those people I actually bought a chunk from, and it was weird. They had a bunch of high-end football stuff in showcases, little tiny showcases like what I have. That's why I could tell you they were just kind of wandered in and set some stuff up because they were not there Friday or Saturday. They had, the one guy had 3 little like 300 count boxes with just random stuff in it. And I was like, what are the prices on this stuff? I started flipping and he goes, they're mostly $1 to $5. Just make a stack and I'll make you a deal. Okay, cool. I start going through there. There's a orange Bowman First Yankees Fernandez Mojo to 25, probably a $250, $300 card. There's a orange Itzhak Pacheco Bowman First Mojo to 25. That's like a $100, $150 card. There were a bunch of like select silver 2022 NFL rookies, Garrett Wilson, guys like that. I put a stack together that's probably a $500 retail stack. And the guy was like, "Oh, what do you think? $40? Yes. Yes, I will.
Yes, I do think $40.
I will take that. That's thank you. I appreciate that very much. So I went back and I probably spent $270, $280 on Sunday for $700 or $800 worth of inventory. So I was happy there, but I went on Sunday with $3,000 in my pocket, wanting to spend all of it. Yeah. Like I wanted to spend it all. It wasn't there to spend.
Well, so we're talking mad crap about this show, but
that dude lost his ass.
Yeah, on the buyer side of it, it was fun to go watch, look around. From what we do understand, people with some serious dollars rolled in immediately.
Yep.
And made everybody right at their tables. There may have been a couple. The concern from the dealers that we saw was traffic.
Yes.
Here's why we have a thorn in our side about this. Is that the right word? Thorn in our heel?
I think.
What's the biblical phrase?
Thorn in the side.
Thorn in the side.
Yeah.
All right. Thorn in the flesh. Thorn in the flesh. Thorn in the flesh.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, master's degree. Anyway, so collector in the area just sent an email like a week out like, hey, I was hearing a lot about this show. I really hope it's successful. I'm concerned because I haven't seen any updates. The hobby has had enough this and that, which sounds kind of negative. But the point of it was you were advertising all this. Who's actually going to be there? Are there autographs? How many actual vendors are going to be there? If I'm paying for it more than normal, which card collectors crack me up because they will blow $800 in a show and not think twice about it. But if you ask them for a $10 cover charge to get in,
oh no,
all hell breaks loose.
Yes.
Which is just hilarious to me. But essentially, the ownership or someone in management over this event sent a scathing email thinking that we would not see it later, screenshotted and sent to all the groups. So essentially, we had that going on. So I had a tough time with it. It sounds like the one that put it on had his own museum of really high-end collectibles. Really didn't care as much about profit and loss, which is a good thing because he lost his ass.
Yeah, he lost $100,000 on that show minimum.
Yeah. Now, if he had some other deals going on, somebody came in, maybe it was worth it. Yeah, I don't know. But long story short, it's not easy to just throw a big show by picking a big venue and getting SGC out. Like there's work
you have
involved.
To do a lot of work to promote a show.
Yeah. Maybe you and I will do one day.
Yeah, it won't be at the convention center right off the rip.
Not at retail.
At the Moose Lodge.
Let's go. All right, so we got a fun little segment for you as we're jumping in here. Getting close to wrapping up after this. This will take a few minutes, though. We want to talk about the worst Facebook sellers that you run into.
And buyers.
So the
worst of Facebook in the hobby.
Yes. So if you are not buying and selling on Facebook, you're missing out on a huge section of hobby transactions.
Opportunity and entertainment.
Yes. So we're going to talk through the worst of both worlds, the buyers and the sellers. And we have a little list. It's not like a top 10 like Dave Letterman,
And
but
when
that's
we
what.
finish this, guys, if we missed something,
Oh, yeah.
jump on Facebook and tell us what we missed.
Yeah. Up first, number one I have is the fire sale guy. There is apparently one graphic on the internet.
The guy who
that
doesn't know what the word fire sale means?
Well, but there's also only one graphic on the entire internet for fire sale, and people Google search it, and that's what they throw in. It's the only one. Fire sale implies it's a sale, one,
At
that's
really low
things that are
prices.
on sale, and they're so on sale that it's a fire. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone in and someone says fire sale, and everything is over comps.
Yes.
Over.
Yeah, not by a little bit either. Like silliness. And then when you try to point that out, people get real defensive
like super
really
worked out.
fast.
Yep. Up next, number two. I like this. We tried to find a politically correct way to say this. Itchy neck guy.
It's meth head guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there he goes. So sometimes you see these in live shows. Sometimes you see these guys out in the wild. Sometimes you see them on Facebook. It looks something like this. Dog, I got this Sam Ellinger. Bro, nobody has this card. I know what I have. All right, man. I'll pick it up off of you. You know, I mean, there's a chance. You know, maybe something happens. I'll give you $5. No, man, I gotta get $100 on this.
As he's scratching his neck, and you're talking way slower than he is.
Oh yeah, I'm not licking my lips.
I'm on the $100. I'm on the $100. Yeah. Oh.
It's usually Donruss. Yeah. Good ones. Allen and Ginter base, right?
You need a tractor card, don't you?
No,
need a
man.
tractor?
No,
It's
man.
chrome.
Dude,
It's
you're
chrome.
gonna make so much money off of this, bro. Just give me $100. Why are you fixed on this $100? Don't worry about it. All right, up next. Oh, this guy. I legit. So this one actually pisses me off.
Okay.
Pack Fresh guy.
Oh yeah. It's
So
annoying.
somebody posts something saying, "Hey, these are pack fresh," and they think that means that because they just opened it from a pack, it's a 10.
Right.
As if aging is what causes cards not to be a 10.
Right.
Quick reminder for you all: when it comes to grading, the condition of the card is where it comes.
Is what it,
If
not how
we were
fresh
in a
it was.
world where everything out of the pack was a 10, guess what? 10s aren't worth anything.
Right. Well, and the best part about Pack Fresh guy is Pack Fresh PSA 10 sell for $400. I'll take $350 for this one. Raw sells for $80.
Yeah.
I'll give you $60.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really clean. It's
Or
gonna grade well.
I'll give you
Well,
$80 because I want it, right?
Should grade it.
Yeah, grade it and then hit me up.
Yeah. Then we'll talk.
Oh man, I don't trust them. Like, oh, so you understand?
Yeah,
you do understand.
You're trying to.
Yeah, Pack Fresh is hilarious to me, and it's usually on mid tier, not super high end stuff.
Well, and
no.
it's usually a guy who ripped it in his car. And you get the picture of the car.
He sat in the
sitting
cup holder for
on
30
his-
miles.
sitting on his leg with the steering wheel behind it in a penny sleeve. Pack Fresh straight into the sleeve. Dude, at least go home before you take your picture, my guy.
Yeah.
Just chill
I'm with you
out.
on that. Yep. Up next. Oh, this is claim over the claim guy.
This is your
See,
favorite.
You do a claim sale. I do these all the time.
We're not
You
going to mention names, but there's a list of them we have.
There's a list of people that you'll be finished up with your sale. Be like, all right, that's all of it, everybody. Sales closed, blah, blah, blah. 20 minutes later, somebody comes through just claiming all the cards that have already been claimed.
Right.
Or they'll come in and there's like cards that have been claimed for like 10, 20, 30 bucks. He's like, I'll give you $5. No, it's already claimed. Somebody already has that
The
card.
best is when you send them their total, and then they're like, oh, I thought I had this, that.
Yeah.
No, why did you think
And it's
that?
always the 50-cent $1 cards. You're like,
Yes.
I would love to look through these 500 cards
Again,
immediately
yeah.
for you for this
Yeah.
reason. This next guy can go right to HE double hockey sticks. The next guy is never pays guy.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. Claim sales.
Help me understand why you would spend an hour to do a claim sale effectively. When I'm buying, I realize there's good stuff in the sale.
But you have to dig through it.
And it's like I have to refresh my screen. Hey,
Yes.
babe, for the next hour and a half, I'm in the sale.
Yeah, I live
I know
here.
it looks like I'm just scrolling. I'm working.
Yeah, I'm working hard.
So when these guys build these stacks out, and they're always the ones that immediately claim like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 9, right?
Yeah.
If you do a grid style,
Uh-huh.
they're claiming like 5, 6 cards at a time, and then crickets. I had one. I think I mentioned it a couple months ago. The guy tells me later, I'd like for you to ship this to the farthest place away from you in Mexico. 2, I should have the money together in a few days. And then when I finally was like, hey, give me the money by tomorrow or not. And this was like 4 or 5 days later, right?
Yeah.
And I said, all right, if I don't have money, I'm just letting people know in the group that you don't pay. Why would you do this to me? I can't believe that you would treat me this way. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Where am I going to buy cards?
How about you pay your bills, bro?
Pay for it.
Yeah, pay your
for
bills,
it.
bro.
Pay. And here's a funny thing. If it's a low-end sale, like I do a ton of those, actually pretty good little profit there if you
Yes.
get stuff people don't even want. Yeah, easy. It takes time, but it's $100, bro. You're going to turn it into $300 at the flea market or whatever.
Just pay it.
Pay.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Arguing lowballers. So qualifier here.
Yes.
We don't hate when somebody gives a lowball offer because sometimes people are like, needs gone. My girlfriend dumped me and my dog is sick.
Battery died in the car.
Battery died in the car running a sale, which I can appreciate the humor because sometimes it's really funny.
Yes.
You know, fresh case of herpes.
Yeah.
Fire sale. So this is the arguing lowballer where I post a card that, so if a card comps at 110, I'm probably on Facebook. If you want to move it, you're going to be a little bit under. So if a card comps at 110, I'll probably be like 100, right?
I'd usually be 85 to 90
Yeah.
if I wanted to move.
You got to be underneath the comps. And then the arguing lowballer comes in and say, take 50. And you say, no, thanks. I appreciate the offer. I always make a point of saying something nice, right? Then they'd be like, well, I just don't understand. Like, why can't we do that? Like, $50, I got cash right now. Because I don't want to. And that's apparently not enough of a reason for the arguing lowballer.
Right. And then they, a lot of times, will get really aggressive and angry. My favorite is when they then block you. And it's just like, okay.
Then I will never lowball you again.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, man.
Now,
Appreciate
you're a lowballer.
Yes, but I don't argue.
I wouldn't say you argue, but you are very assertive. So people can take that as arguing. What we're talking about is a person that gets an answer and then just keeps going.
Well, help me out. When you say I'm very assertive, tell me what you mean, because I want to understand what you mean there.
So let me give an example to everyone.
Yes.
We pull in to go to this card show at the convention center the other day, and there is a parking garage, which you have a pass to, okay? This is a perfect example.
This is not card related.
No, this is a perfect example. Just in general, you are very assertive.
Okay.
The parking attendant, it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, literally. There's maybe 20 cars in this parking lot. It's pretty cleared out because where we're parking,
Nobody's at the show.
Nobody's at the show, and he has like a card for employees, right?
Yeah.
And his wife drives that vehicle in occasionally. The sensor goes off because the height of the kayak rack on top is like making it like low clearance, but it's not low clearance because he's parked there. Rather than waiting for the guy to walk up and explain, hey, you know, my wife works here, we park here often, it's going to be fine, don't worry about it. He begins to yell. You ever heard somebody yell and like get on the edge of screaming, but it's not quite screaming yet? Their voice hasn't cracked, but they are yelling loudly. I'm in the car with him, and it beeps like this guy set off an alarm, which he didn't. No, he didn't set it off. No. You be quiet. You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. Be passive. See, prove to me. You can't. He immediately goes, first words out of his mouth, my wife parks here. I park here 5 times a week. I've been here. I parked here. I know how to park here. And the guy's like, well, man, what the hell? All right. I mean, I'm making $12 an hour. Just go ahead, man.
So let me qualify so people understand that that's not exactly how that happened.
That is exactly how that happened.
Guy
hold on.
That
is exactly how that happened.
Yes, but with missing information. When the sensor went off, it beeps loudly to say, hey, you're too tall for the garage. But I know that I'm not. The guy did not just kind of somewhat concertedly look out and make sure that I knew I was going. He came charging out of there like, you can't park here. I was not going to have that argument.
I'll be really honest with you guys. He's making it sound like a rhino on a safari. It was more like a gazelle.
Which is a very fast animal.
Oh, let's not do that then. Let's do a doe, a deer, a female deer.
Also a fast animal. The guy was coming to tell me I couldn't park there. That's what was about to happen, was it not?
No, I don't think he was going to tell you can't park there. He was going to say, sir, this sensor just went off that indicates that you may damage your vehicle if you park here. But before you had a chance to take a third step, I park here all the time. Like just,
I wasn't that loud.
Yes, you were.
I disagree.
It hurt my ears.
I disagree with your assessment.
Arguing lowballers. So Pot, kettle.
I am assertive. That is true. But
Okay.
I don't argue. Like if I make somebody an offer,
And they don't want it. You say cool, thanks.
yes,
That's it. Yeah,
100%.
yeah, I
And they'll
agree.
be like, well, what about, and they'll give me a counter and I'll say, okay, pass. And they'll be like, well, what's your counter? I don't have one. I already made you my offer. It's cool.
Yeah.
Go on with your day.
Up next, shipping eventually guy. So when you get in these Facebook groups, here's what I've learned. There are some that have really strict, stringent, you got to ship by this, this, and this. But once these groups get to a certain size, it's almost impossible to like maintain that. And to like, are you really going to message as an administrator every person that's a day behind on shipping? No. It's not like a lot of the groups that we're in are anywhere between 50 to 100,000 collectors in them. And there's, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of things will get posted every day. I can't scroll 24 hours in an hour
No.
and look through stuff. So the shipping eventually guy is the one where 3 or 4 days later, you're like, bro, you got any tracking for me? Oh, man, glad you asked. I just had this happen, so maybe tomorrow. Okay, setting my alarm for maybe tomorrow. I'll say that kind of stuff. Maybe tomorrow comes up. Hey, man, need that tracking update.
Didn't make it to the post office yet.
Do you remember that part where I gave you money for
Yeah.
a service? So, quick reminder, if you don't know someone and you're hesitant, do goods and services. Protect yourself on
And what
PayPal.
exacerbates shipping eventually guy is when shipping eventually guy was riding your ass to pay him as
Yeah.
fast as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah.
I need payment within 3 hours of the end of the claim sale. Otherwise, the cards are free again. And
I'm
then it
heading
takes
to the
weeks.
casino.
And I try really hard to be like, because I sell stuff online and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, unless I specifically said, hey, can you have this out tomorrow?
Yeah.
And they say yes. Or because sometimes I need something for a show.
There's a lot of times I'm finishing up a claim sale on a Sunday and I say, hey, I have a show coming up this weekend. If you could have that in the mail Monday, that'd be huge. If it's Saturday, I'll tell them that. Sunday, hey, don't want to be too pushy. Just a reminder, if it's at all possible, get this in the mail tomorrow. Are we still looking good for that? I just need to know if I can count on this inventory.
Right.
And that has usually worked. But the guys that don't want to ship, I'm just like, don't be lazy
Yeah.
like that.
Just go.
Yeah.
And if you're selling a lot, just go buy a thermal printer. They're cheap.
Yeah, they are cheap.
Print it from your desktop, slap it on the thing, and just stick it in your mailbox.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, claim sales take longer to sort than people think they will if they're getting started with it. But when it's a repeat offender, if somebody does that 2 or 3 times, 2 times on me, I'm not buying anymore. I don't care.
Well, and one of the things that you'll find is if you start selling on Facebook and you develop a reputation for that, you'll stop selling stuff.
Yep.
And the inverse is also true. If you develop a reputation for shipping quickly, people will buy. Most of the time, if somebody buys something from me, they have tracking within 6 hours.
We have a guy that we buy cases of top loaders from where we have tracking in
minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. Shout out, Frank.
Yeah, Frank.
Nice work, Frank.
And great prices, too. All right, up next. Taking offers guy that's not actually taking offers. Makes me so... Here's what it is. I hit a card bigger than I expected. I want to show off this card.
Yeah.
Taking offers. Then you show them like, hey man, I'd offer you $100. You're like, oh no, man, I don't know, man.
Nothing drives me crazy.
You're
than-
already 20% over comps.
Yeah. Well, what drives me nuts, 2 things that make me crazy. One, guys who won't put a price on something and just want offers anyway.
Yeah.
That makes me lose my mind. If you're a dealer and you're listening to this and you set up at shows and you don't have price tags on your stuff, I'm not looking at your stuff.
Unless it's
I'm
brand new.
out.
If majority has pricing and you have a few cards you just picked up, I understand
that's
that.
different. But like when a whole table isn't priced, and if I pull something out, I pull a stack out, and I'm like, how much for this? And your answer is to grab your phone and start looking at stuff. I literally will
Yeah.
just look at you and go, hey, put them back. I'm good. And
I don't
leave.
have 20 minutes for this.
No, I'm out.
Yeah.
If you don't know what your stuff you want to sell it for,
No.
I'm out.
Really big cards, that's a little different. If it's something that's been up there for a little while.
Even then, it's not really different to me. Like I've had some big cards on my table. They have a price tag.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is the other guy who puts a price. My favorite is when it's like mid-range cards. It's $20. Well, what about 17? No, I think I'm good at 20. Well, why'd you say best offer then,
Yeah.
my guy? Like I'm not.
I was really hoping you'd say 21.
Yeah, it's just like well, it's in an auction. What's going on?
All right, next one, trade up guy. I'll
this guy
also
makes me
include
insane.
any kid that is a teenager or older, if you're not a little kid and you're doing this trade up thing at the card shows, stop it.
Yeah, you're just taking advantage of people.
Hey, you look at this? No. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes with another card with the same value.
The best is when they bring you back a card that you already traded them, and they try to bring you your card back.
Because they lost count? Yeah.
And it was like, you got this from me. I don't want it back. I'm
Buddy,
good.
there's 10 tables here today.
Yeah.
So, but the taking offers guy, the trade up guy. So, hey, man, I really want that card. I know you got 200 on it, but I got a deal for you. I got $221 cards.
Yeah.
Easy money.
Hard pass.
Yep.
Because your $221 cards are actually 220 10-cent cards.
Up next, we got the Beckett guy.
Oh, my God.
Now, mad respect to anybody that is, born, what would we call it? Well, I guess you could be born into
I
the
grew
50s,
up in
60s.
the height of the Beckett era.
If you collected anywhere through the 80s and 90s,
85 to 2005.
Yeah, you're buying Beckett's, you're pricing out your items that way. But when this guy shows up to your table or hops online for a sale on Facebook and says, well, Beckett says blah, 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 but it's like from a month ago, like perfect example would be NFL, well, I hate to say it, Nick Chubb.
Right.
Beckett may have some of his short print stuff looking real nice right now.
I've got a really nice Nick Chubb that's probably going to be in my possession for a long time.
That was a nasty injury he suffered.
Yes, it was.
The value has tanked. Beckett could not keep up. I understand that you believe it's the gold standard. I understand you pulled that Beckett out of your Trapper Keeper in your Jordache backpack. I do understand that. However, Beckett is no longer the gold standard. I will say this. I still like their slabs. I love subgrades. I love, the Black Label is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my life. But that is not how you price cards. The market is moving. It is more instant. That doesn't mean if there's a low ball sale and then 5 others that are at 40% over that, you take the most recent one, you average it out. But Beckett sale guy, you don't belong on Facebook because you don't understand how the internet works.
Right. The market moves way too fast. And I always tell Beckett guys the same thing. If you want me to, I will buy all your stuff at Beckett's low pricing. If you will buy all my stuff at Beckett's high pricing, since I'm a dealer, like we can play that game.
Yeah,
if you want to,
exactly.
That's fine.
Up next, I know this is an angsty thread. We got 2 more here. Didn't read the original post, guys.
This was the one. This might be my biggest pet peeve. You post, I'm buying XYZ, and you're very specific. I'm buying XYZ, no base, color, or autos only. Raw. You couldn't be more specific. And people just blow your thread up with all the things that you didn't ask for. Either base stuff or non-licensed stuff or just random nobody stuff. They just saw somebody use the word buying and they immediately got excited and just started posting stuff from their phone.
Yeah.
And you're just like, stop. Stop.
I am looking for Zach Thomas refractors. Hey, dog, you ever heard of Warwick Dunn?
Yeah. It's like, what?
They played against each other. Hear me out. Like, it's just.
I'm buying Joe Burrow XYZ. Here's some Zach Wilson. What?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, mad respect for you not, like, taking a week off of Zach. Not
just
on socials,
here, not
just
on
on the podcast.
Just here.
All right, finally, your least favorite. If we had a number 1 annoying post, it's the bro guy, dog.
Scammer.
Listen, hey, man, bro, walk him through it.
Yeah, when you go to buy something from somebody and their first 2 or 3 interactions with you involve the word bro, there's about a 95% chance you're getting scammed. Almost to a T, you will pay the bro guy. And then when you ask about shipping, the next thing you will hear is, oh, my girlfriend or my wife was supposed to take that to the post office. You got scammed. Don't buy from bro guy.
Or they also have a tendency to upsell whatever they're about to offer you. Bro, dog, you ain't going to believe this, bro.
I got something else.
I got a sick deal. Bro, sick, dog. What other ones?
That pretty much sums it up.
The occasional man.
Yeah, but usually it's bro.
Yeah.
When you get bro. And also, with almost 0 exceptions, if you take the time to look at bro guy's profile and his profile pictures, chances are you wouldn't step within 100 feet of that person in the real world.
Yeah.
Don't try to buy things from that person.
It might have an itchy neck.
It's not going to end well. If he looks like he smokes meth and he's holding wads of 20s in his hand
Yeah.
with his girlfriend with 4 teeth
Yeah.
over his shoulder,
Yeah.
you don't want to do business.
All right, up next. Let's answer a question we had
Mailbag.
on our socials. John Cummings, a guy that I worked out with, back in the day. I don't know if you know this, bro.
That worked out. You said, bro.
I worked out. Bro, I got a deal for you, dog. But John Cummings had a great question. I'm just going to go ahead and read through this.
Okay.
Hey, all. I've noticed a few listings of late 80s, early 90s baseball cards that have been graded. I'm trying to understand why someone would have paid to get those graded. I'm seeing a card sell for $2 raw, maybe $10 graded, but you're paying $20 to have the card graded. I guess maybe if you just really liked that card and wanted it graded for your own collection, but there's no net gain from a dollar standpoint in there, right? Great question.
Yes. So to answer your question, it's going to be a few pieces. One, there is a chance that those cards were graded back when PSA was $6 to sub.
Okay.
Okay. One of the things about cards in that era that can be profitable from a grading standpoint, especially if you're grading through PSA, really only if you're grading through PSA, there are people, PSA has their set registry, and there are people who are really into completing full sets of PSA 10 from those eras. And
regardless of what player it is. Yeah.
And it's a competition, and there are people who really go hard in the paint to try to have the highest ranked set of, say, 86 tops, right? Which 86 tops baseball is an extremely hard grade. Like if you go look at the pop counts on PSA 10s from
pop
that
count. So since we're answering for John, jumping back into the hobby, pop count means how many PSA 10s are out there.
Yeah, how many exist? How many have been graded?
So for example, like Zion Williamson that had a huge hype with basketball a couple years ago.
30,000 PSA 10 Prism base cards.
But you start getting some 86 tops.
The pop counts can be 3 or 4 on comments.
It's really hard to hit a 10.
Yeah, and so that's a big part of it, people grading for that reason. There's also
can I jump in there?
Yeah.
One thing to understand, too, is it's easy, if you're not into grading, to say, oh, a 9 is almost a 10. It's a really easy thing to say. There is a massive, massive multiplier to go from a 9 to a 10 on a card.
Especially on junk wax era stuff.
The reason for that is the quality control was terrible, quite simply.
And a lot of those cards have just been sitting in storage units.
Rubber
non-temperature-
bands.
Yes.
So
the supply of them is in high grade condition is not super, super high. The other thing that happens is you get delusional people. And they're people, and I talk to them at least a couple times a month at shows, who bring stuff in from that era, and they insist that they have a gold mine. And they won't listen to anybody. And they will send in 100 of those cards, and they'll spend $2,000 to grade it all. And they'll put it up for auction on Facebook, and then they're shocked when they've lost $900 of they've lost $1,900 of their $2,000 that they spent on grading. There's a shocking number of people who think they know more than they actually do when it comes to this hobby and this business.
And let's go back to the original intention of grading, in my opinion. I know that there's a part of it with the value, but the goal was to encapsulate and protect cards. So
kind of. PSA's, the goal was to encapsulate and protect cards, but also to provide what was supposed to be
a baseline,
a consistent, independent condition evaluation of a card. So in theory, a 9 should look like every other 9 or very close. A 10 should look like every other 10. We know that in theory that's great, but in practice that's not how it works.
But what I want to go back to is there are people who just collect those and grade them because they like the card and they want to grade it, and it's the card that they opened when they were 20 years old and they walked into the card shop in college.
Those people aren't putting that card up on eBay and taking a 50% loss on the grading cost.
Correct. They're probably sitting on the card. So, John, I think one thing I would say is there's a few different factors. You have collectors that are just genuinely that. They collect. They want to hang on to their card. They like the card. There's a memory with the card. There's a reason they want to spend that $20 to hang on to it and protect it. Maybe there's a story attached. Secondly, there are people that think, I could hit the 10 on this. This looks really good, which we have episodes talking about pre-grading that'll just kind of walk you through what do we look for in a card? How do we determine if it's worth sending off, right? Does it have a chance at a 10? Some of those, even that junk wax era of cards, yeah, that raw sold for 2, but that 10 could sell for a lot more
5,
than
6, 8, 900. Like I said, perfect examples of that are like 86 Topps is one of the most difficult grades in the history of baseball cards, especially when you get into the modern era.
Yeah.
Most of them were super off-center. They had that black border at the top that would chip really, really easily. PSA 10 Nolan Ryan is easily a $300 or $400 card in 86 Topps, but raw it's $3.
Yeah. So the value, the multiplier there is another reason for that. Some people just do really poor research in this hobby. They heard that if you send it to PSA, you'll do this and that, and they legitimately don't think about what they're spending to get it graded.
No.
And they're like, well, it's a $3 card. It turned into a $10 card. But you're right. They lost $7 by the time they graded it.
Exactly.
So really, really good question on that. There are subsets or editions like the Tiffany, Topps Tiffany, which is like a glossier version that came in a special
They
set.
make 5,000 of them every year.
Yeah, so those are a little harder to get. Some of those are going to have value. Now we have stuff that's like serial numbered, short printed, autographed. It literally will have a stamp saying how rare the card is.
Right.
So it was a little different then. But those would be a few different reasons they would do that. Personally, if you're on the investment side of it, the odds of you pulling out a box of cards that has a bunch of random 86 through 89 Topps baseball and sending off 10
That's
of them.
worth grading.
Yeah, like I haven't found anything that I've collected, purchased in a collection, opened, and I still like opening junk wax from time to time. Like I've never
It's a
opened
blast.
I've never opened up that pack where I'm like, I think that's a 10 from that era. You really have to get lucky on that. So, but I have spent a lot of time and money on sending cards off and learning that my 10 is or isn't a 10, and here's why. Which is why I'd recommend subgrades. So BGS does that. Is SGC still doing subgrades if you ask for?
SGC's never done subgrades.
Oh, really?
FCG does
No.
subgrades.
SGC would do like a 86 or a 70.
That was their old grading scale
Yes.
back in the day when they had the green labels.
Yeah. But yeah, FGC, forensic
FCG.
forensic card grading, FCG, will give you subgrades,
So
which
does
tells
HGA.
you HGA still around.
Shockingly, yeah.
So you have some of these grading companies, John, that will offer you not only, hey, it's a 9, but here's why. The surface was great, but the corners were bad, but the edges were this. Like, it'll kind of walk you through just overall what's happening, centering, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that answers the question. That's all I had. Do you have anything else before we head out?
we banged a long one out today. That sounded worse than I meant it
This
to.
has been the Ball Cart Show, the Sports Podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye.
Peace.